I want to thank Johnny Mako with the suggestion to make this keybind guide. For further discussion on the topic, visit my community Discord in the link below. Happy to answer any questions you may have. I want to start with a confession. I was once a clicker. Yes, it's true. I clicked my abilities up and through Original Wrath when I stopped playing because of school. It was only because of a friend I started using keybinds around MOP. And I will tell you from personal experience, it was tough to get used to. But like Jerry Seinfeld says,
you should just do it like a band-aid. One motion, right off!
And it's true, you should have every ability keybound, and I will help you with that. There are 3 main reasons to use keybinds other than click. 1, you will become a better player. 2, faster reaction times. 3, avoid being bullied. Maybe that's a weak third point, but it's true that WoW opens up as a more complete game when you understand the power of bindings. When you pair bindings with macros, it puts you on a path to become a top player in the World of Warcraft. If you need help with the macros, check out my guide here. This is going to be a beginner-friendly guide, so please know there are a lot more things to master, but I will be assuming you are making the transition from clicking to key binding to keep this as simple as possible. By the end of this, my hope is that you are able to understand the reasoning and foundations on what and why to keybind. We will go over movement and how I set up and think about my hunter abilities. I think the first place we need to start with is movement, and I will go over the keybinds I use, but know that every person will find certain keys easier or harder to use. Players also use mouses like this that only lend that much more to customization. I like my mouse basic, so my keybinds reflect that. For movement, there are 2 things you need to stop doing, and that's backpedal and keyboard turn. There are times when you need to backpedal as a tank, but those are so rare that keeping the backpedal only on the cursor keys would be fine. It also opens up the S key for more keybinds, which is something you should be thinking to yourself when coming up with your own keybinds. Do I really need to keep this keybind as default? For your churning in-game, you should always be using your mouse. It is faster and opens up 2 more keybinds. Also make sure to go into your interface and never allow camera to adjust. You want to have complete control over your camera. This might take some time getting used to, but it's worth it. I keep my strafing on A, D, and forward run on W. When running your strafing, if you want to turn directions, you can do it in one of 2 ways. You can be running and with holding down the left mouse button, pan the camera to the direction you want to turn and press the right mouse button. You could also hold down both mouse buttons and it allows you to run and turn in the direction you want to move towards. This is also how you could do the cool 360 jumps. With the movement keybinds out of the way, I will now show you how I set up my hunter whenever I start a new character. These are my abilities and keybinds, and they're gone. We'll start off by showing how to set up the toolbars, so that way you can see your multiple toolbars on your screen. And I will have these abilities as a placeholder. So you go to interface and have these options on. Left bar, right bar 1, right bar 2, lock action bars, and show numbers for cooldowns. The way I think about keybinds is I like having my first 12 most used abilities and their shift counterpart keybinds on these first 2 bars. I start off with tilde, 1, 2, 3, 4, Q, E, R, F, wheel up, wheel down, and Z. And if you scroll down, you'll find action page 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You might notice that you've been clicking these, and that's why I like to get rid of them, so I just unbind these. For the action bar that's right on top of your first action bar, you go to multi-action bar, and it corresponds to the bottom left action button 1. And what I like to do is just have all the buttons, tilde, 1, 2, 3, 4, add the shift. So those are an easy 24 abilities that we could have right there in our first 2 bars. For the bottom right action button, I start with S, Shift S, X, Shift X, C, Shift C, V, Shift V, T, Shift T, 5, Shift 5. And this is the last time I'll reiterate this. These are the most comfortable for me and what I've been using for the longest time. Please feel free to change this to whatever combination that you feel most comfortable. For example, I know I use A and D for strafe. People love keeping that on Q, W, and E. For the furthest right toolbars, I like having my Hearthstone and my professions up here. Things that I don't really need keybound. That's find minerals, engineering, first aid, And I like having Shadow Meld and other abilities down here in the lower half of those for this right toolbars. And those correspond with right action bars 1 and 2. And to keep the placeholder, I'll leave my profession there on what I like to have as my mount, F5 and Shift F5. We'll actually pull those up. So I like having my Twilight Drake mount on Shift F5 and my mount on F5. I'll leave Shadow Meld over here and go through my Hunter abilities and start adding them to the keybinds. But know that we are going to keybind Shadow Meld later on. So we'll start off with the Beast Mastery abilities. This is my survival spec for PvE, so you'll see those abilities. And just generally to let you know, for my PvP, I like having stuns on Q, my spammable spells like aim shot, chimera shot on E, silence and trank shot on R, kill shot and flare on F. I never use aspect of the beast, so I don't put that on. Aspect of the cheetah, I put on C. Aspect on the dragonhawk, I like having over here. And that's usually my mouse button 1. Aspect of the pack, I leave up here. Aspect of the viper, I have on T. Aspect of the wild on Shift T. Call pet, which I have a macro for, I leave over here on the bars. Dismiss pet, I don't use those abilities. Kill command, I have it macroed to my abilities, so. But I do like to see it when it's on cooldown, so I leave it up there. Master's Call, I have on X. Scare Beast on 5. And Men Pet's part of my macros, so there's that. Hunter's Mark on Tilda. Aim Shot, Shifty. And I'm going to be going through this, but I'll probably be changing them as I go, because it is kind of funny trying to do it all at one take. Serpent Sting on 2. Arcane Shot on Shift Tilde. Concussive Shot on Shift 4. Distracting Shot, which you use when a tank wants aggro, you misdirect and use Distracting Shot just to get that much more aggro. And Flare on Shift F. Kill Shot on F. Multi-Shot on 3. Rapid Fire on Z. Scorpion Sting up here. Steady Shot on Shift 3. Volley on X. And we'll move Master's Call to V. Trank Shot on R. Viper Sting we'll leave on Shift 2. Survival spells, I have most of my melee abilities macroed to the same one, but I like having Raptor Strike on 4, Snake Trap on Shift and mouse wheel up, Track Beast, I have a macro for that, we'll pull that up. And that's for hidden and humanoids. Again, if you need help with that, check out this macro guide. My wing clip, I have right here. My disengage, I like having over here. Wyvern Sting, I have on Shift R. Black Arrow, I have on Q. Explosive Shot on E. Deterrence on Z. Rapid Fire on S. Freezing Arrow over here. Explosive Shot on X. Shift X. Disengage over here. Frost Trap. Mouse wheel down. Misdirection over here. Immolation Trap, which we use on Thaddeus really, on Shift mouse down. And then I also have my gloves, for the engineering gloves, which increase haste on Shift Q. For trinkets, you could also put those down. I have boots, the speed boots, my parachute for the cloak. Now for those other keybinds, the right action ones, I like having G, Shift G for my Feign Death and Shadow Meld. That way I could get out of combat. B on boots, Shift B for food. I'll switch out that misdirection soon. N and Shift N, Y, Shift Y. And then I like having 6, Shift 6 for my pet abilities. Mouse button 5 and 4 for Aspect of the Dragonhawk and Disengage. And I'm sure that I'm missing a few other abilities, but this is how the general way that I set up my Hunter. This is a lot, and we will repeat that the best way to transition from clicking into using keybinds is all at once.
I have no stomach for these things.
You should just do it like a band-aid. One motion, right off!
If you found this useful and want to see more Hunter content, please subscribe. And if you need help with your macros, check out this macro guide.